Hey everybody, welcome back to another Scotch tasting review. And again, I want to thank you for looking at these videos and for continuing to follow me. So today I'm going to do one of my favorites. And if you've looked at my other videos, you should have an idea of what my favorite is. The Glenlivet distillery. So today we're going to do the Glenlivet Founders Reserve. And Glenlivet has a place in my heart simply because it was the first bottle. My Glenlivet 12-year-old was one of the first bottles of Scotch that I had that made me want to start collecting Scotch, basically. And Founders Reserve is pretty new to the line because when I started years ago, the entry level to the line was the Glenlivet 12-year-old. But they added Founders Reserve, and it's a good entry level for people that just want to get into Scotch. And Glenlivet is a standard, is a brand everybody that knows about Scotch knows about the Glenlivet. And yeah, Founders Reserve is a NAS, a non-age statement. So that means you're gonna come into it, don't worry about the 12-year-old, don't worry about the age statement, only just come in and taste Scotch basically. There we go, Founders Reserve. Let's give it a good pour so you can see. Yeah. So as usual, I'm going to set it down. Normally, you would have to leave it for at least 5 to 10 minutes. I mean, some people leave it as long as 20 minutes. If you are having an official tasting, you would cover it with a glass cover and all these type of things. But I like to drink, so I'm going to leave it there while I chat with you a little bit about the history of the Glenlivet distillery. So they're very proud to say that they were established in 1824. Now that doesn't mean that they weren't distilling before. Around those times there were some pretty lawless times happening in Scotland, in the Scottish countryside, in these highlands. This is before they were carved out as Speyside. So the Glenlivet now sits in Speyside, which is the highest producing whiskey region in Scotland. At that time it was basically highlands and lowlands, and they were doing this, I don't want to say moonshine, but they were basically doing it illegally because they would make their own and have it on the farms and distill it, and it was such a rugged countryside that people couldn't really police them. And there was an act that was passed in the Scottish Parliament in 1823 because before you had to have a certain size still, which would allow you to pay less taxes or something along those lines. So if I remember correctly, so in 1823 they passed this act that kind of evened out the playing field between the highlands, which was producing this aged whiskey in barrels, as opposed to the lowlands, which is producing grain whiskey in mass quantities. So they wanted to kind of even the playing field a little bit, and then it would have also helped the blended distillers because they can now have some grain to mix with some malted barley, and that would have given you a nice blend. So Johnny Walker, Dewar's, Chivas Regal, all those people. And yeah, so George Smith decided in 1824, I'm going to become legal, and what he made was so great that the region became known as one of the best Scotch producing regions in Scotland from 1824 all the way to now. And I mean, of course, he would have been part of the impetus that made Speyside what it is. So all of the distilleries started opening up in the Speyside region. And I'm from Trinidad in the Caribbean. We know about rum, we know about sugarcane, we know about sweet. So Speyside is light, fruity, as sweet as Scotch can get, but sweet. And that's what we know in this region. So most of the brands or most of the distilleries that we know in Trinidad and our region come from the Speyside region of Scotland. It's that simple. Their flavor palette and their flavor profile is as close as you can get to rum in Trinidad or the Caribbean. So I said all of that to give us a couple minutes so we can let some air interact with this. So first we're going to look at the color. It's almost golden, but like a light gold. It's not as deep as an amber, but it's a light gold. Pick it up, you can see it there. Yeah, it's light gold. So it's a non-age statement, but we know it's Scotch. So all that really means is I know for sure that this is a single malt Scotch whiskey. It's single, that means all of the Scotch that was used in this NAS, this mix, was produced by the Glenlivet distillery. It's a single malt, so only malted barley was used in here. And it's a non-age statement, but it's called Scotch. So that means it would have been matured in American oak casks for at least 3 years. Now I believe the Glenlivet, at least this Founders Reserve for sure, uses first filled casks. What that means is it would have had American bourbon in it before, and the first time it's been filled in Scotland with whiskey would have been with this Glenlivet Scotch. Yeah. I believe also for it to be called Scotch, it has to be in American oak or European oak, not any other type of oak, those oak trees, and they would have had to been used by bourbon or sherry or something else before, so it can't be poured directly white whiskey coming from the still straight into it. It had to been seasoned by something else before. And what else can I say? The oak trees have to be at least 80 years old, I believe. They have very strict specific laws they have to follow to be able to call something Scotch, otherwise it's just going to be whiskey. Let's give it a nose. Glenlivet is normally at 40%, so let's see, yeah, 40%. It's nice, fruity. Man, keep your mouth slightly open so you can also taste it. Pears, vanilla, honey, apples, sweet, light. Oh. Smelling and tasting good Scotch makes me warm, makes me happy. And like I said, I like all Scotch, I like all whiskey, but because Glenlivet was one of the first, the first bottle I collected. The first single malt I had was Glenlivet, and I finished it really quickly. Right after that, I got a Glenlivet 12-year-old, and I decided, you know what, I'm going to start collecting this, starting with this bottle, because I don't want to finish it all the time. I want to enjoy it. Now, this is in my collection. I have a pretty big Scotch collection, but I heavily rotate my Scotch, so I don't think when October 2020, I don't think I've drank the Scotch for the year. So yeah, let's go. What's amazing to me is that this is Glenlivet's entry-level Scotch. This is smooth. This is like drinking water. There's no spiciness. There's fruity, there's light. Finish is smooth. There is a finish, but it's not defined. It's still there, but it's just so smooth. It's like honey, it's just so smooth. Man, this is good. I get sweet, honey, fruit, pear, apples, fresh fruit that's very light. This is some good Scotch. So, I'm gonna add some water. Some people use droppers. Some people use the caps of their water bottles. I tend to pour directly and try to eyeball what I think a half a cap would be, so go higher so you can see exactly how much. Very little bit of water. Just to open up the flavors a little bit. As some people would say, unfurl the bouquet of the aromas. Just add in water, which will help aerate it, interact with the air. Lighter and fruitier as expected. Now again, this is a non-age statement, so adding water to this will not, I don't expect it to have the same difference in complexity as opposed to a 12-year-old, 15-year-old, 18-year-old, 21-year-old. Because some of the whiskey in here, some of the Scotch in here will only be 8 years old. 3 years old, So it's not going to be, some can be as old as 8, some can be as old as 12. It doesn't matter how old it is, but the majority of it would be within that 3 to 5 year range, maybe 8 year range if you stretch it. Let's go. Remember, roll it around on your tongue. So, as expected, before I say anything, I'll take another sip. So, as expected, adding the water didn't add that much layer of complexity for me. It did make it easier to drink. So if you're not accustomed drinking a 40% alcohol straight, water would make it definitely easier for you. Some of the fruity notes did come out. The finish is still there, but the finish is so subtle and so smooth that it's not inhibitive in any way at all. Personally, I prefer this without water because I like that. Je ne sais quoi. I like that. I like the texture, but more importantly, I like the pear and that fresh fruit. I like it, and I lost a little bit of it by adding that little bit of water. So I prefer to have kept that. So I definitely would recommend not having this with water. Just drink it straight. Again, if you're not accustomed drinking 40% alcohol, add your water is fine. And if it's the first time you're tasting it, definitely add the water and make your own opinion. Drink whatever you like, however you like, but try it straight, try it neat, then add a little water, and then you can see which one is better for you. Finish it off. So it's good. So again, Glenlivet Founders Reserve, non-age statement. If you see it, definitely give it a try. It's definitely a good entry-level Scotch. Glenlivet is a very good distillery. It's like name is gold in Scotch, in the Scotch world. Everybody knows the Glenlivet. One of those household names: Johnny Walker, Glenlivet, Glenfiddich, Macallan, Jameson from the Irish whiskey world. So Dewar's, everybody knows these brands, and there's a reason everybody knows these brands. The standard has been around for many years. So again, thank you all for watching my review video. Please watch my other videos. Follow me on Instagram, Scotchmantt. Follow me on Facebook, Scotchmantt. You've looked at this video, so subscribe, like, share. Let's grow the community. You need anything, you need Glencairn glasses. See, my name. If you need anything, just message me below. I'm very easy to contact. Slanjaba. Thanks again. See you on the next one.